I'm Alex. I'm a mother of 3, and I'm from Florida. And I've been here at Deeper Healing for a few different times over the past year. And I'm here just to share about my journey. And I really want to help. I have tried it all, minus hypothermia and hyperthermia, which I've had friends do that. It did not work. But I've literally traveled the world to get better. And as much as I say I wish I didn't do all those things and I would have come straight here to Deeper Healing, I've learned what doesn't work, and it's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things that don't work. So I'm here to tell you, you can save a lot of time and a lot of money to come here, because I went to Mexico, I went to Germany, I reached out, spent in just 1 year over $280,000 to save my life and my daughter's, and wish it would have come right here. It just gave us a lot of answers. So my daughter and I were both sick, but even my youngest, so I have 2 boys, and they're 9 and 10, and my daughter is 13. But a couple years ago, they really started getting sick, and my youngest he was seeing a neurosurgeon, and he was about to have brain surgery, and this was in a house of mold. My boys were diagnosed with asthma in this house. My son was having a lot of atonic seizures, or bobblehead, where you fall straight to the ground. My other son was having some endocrine issues, hormonal issues, and then my daughter, she was labeled with like PANDAS, all kinds of. She literally is a sweet angel and flipped a switch, and it was particularly in this house. And we dealt with just extreme outbursts, rage, violence, all kinds of stuff. And I knew, this is not my daughter, something is wrong. We had some support, and we had some doubters out there, and they just wanted me to keep giving her more antidepressants and anti-anxieties, but I knew I had been sick for a lot longer than my kids. I was on disability since my daughter was born, and she's 13. I had health issues along the way, but one of the things I faced the most was people doubting me, minimizing me, and you did this today, so these expectations. But I was constantly pushing myself. I had debilitating fatigue, painful fatigue, and I was always pushing myself, and I literally got to a point I pushed and pushed until I couldn't anymore, and my husband had to take over. But when I heard that when my daughter was telling me, I don't feel right, I feel sick, I believed her, and I made sure she knew that I believed her. And for those out there that are supporting people that are sick, believe them. They're telling you the truth. And there's so many things out there that can be impacting them. And there's so many, and we tend to just trust our standard medical doctors out there, and they will push you, and they will push you from this doctor to this specialist to this. And I've done that. I've done that whole route. I have seen endocrinologists, immunologists, hematologists, oncologists, cardiologists, electrophysiologists, gastroenterologists, and the 5 more I can't think of at the moment. And they were all treating separate things. And of course, some were sending me to, you need to go see a psychiatrist, you just have anxiety. So I lived that life of doubting me. But I just kept pushing and fighting. I've been to Mayo Clinic. I've been to Vanderbilt. I've been to UAB. And I've been told, you're complicated. You're complicated. There were some that would believe me, and then there were some that would doubt me. But in the end, I started having legit diagnoses of POTS, neurocardiogenic syncope, IBS, nodal reentrant tachycardia, also known as AVNRT, like an arrhythmia in your heart. There's a huge list of things. Fibromyalgia, and just debilitating fatigue. And I got past that route for a very long time for no answers, to a point that finally I started to die. In this house, I started developing dementia-like symptoms. I couldn't pay bills anymore. I couldn't think. It's like a line on The Office. He says, talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old or whatever. But I was literally telling my husband that, talk to me like I'm a child. I can't handle this stuff. I can't handle these responsibilities, to where I literally had to go live next door with some friends. I couldn't be a mother anymore. I couldn't take care of my kids. I couldn't handle the noise. I was overwhelmingly depressed, anxious, but I was like a person with dementia. I've since learned it's called like autoimmune dementia, but I was, sorry. Okay. I had dementia-like symptoms. I couldn't even be a mom anymore. I had to live next door. I couldn't handle noise. The anxiety was, on a 1 to 10, it was like a 50. Depression. I couldn't handle any responsibilities. I literally had to take care of myself. I developed a sadness and understanding for people with dementia. And you're aware something is wrong. And it's very scary. It's very isolating. It's very lonely. And so I would visit with my kids here and there. But I also had bruises all over my body for no reason. I would literally wake up with a new bruise every day. That actually got me sent to an oncologist and a hematologist. I had every symptom minus one of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And they were just waiting for my blood work for a few things to change. That was about it. I had, of course, crushing anxiety so bad they put me on Adderall because I would sleep I could sleep and sleep. My husband would have to wake me up and give me food and something to drink. I'd go to the bathroom and then I'd go back to sleep again. So finally they put me on Adderall just so I could sit in bed with my kids and visit with them. And it was hard because my daughter was sick. My daughter was bedridden at this point too. I'll go back to that in a second, but I'll continue with my symptoms. But that was hard. She was very sick. So like my daughter, sometimes we were talking to each other on the phone. She's in bed and I'm in bed. And I had like over 45 symptoms. I wrote them down one time when I was in Mexico, just all the things I've had, you name it, swallowing issues, choking, tremors. They labeled me with myasthenia gravis when I got in Mexico. I had an issue exhaling. When I struggled to exhale, I had a neighbor next door that did acupuncture, so they would trach me with an acupuncture needle just so I could breathe, just to stimulate that area. When I would eat food, I would collapse into my food or go like this. I had ALS-like symptoms, MS-like symptoms. It was ridiculous. And every little symptom you can think of, I had. And I mentioned the swallowing issues. I actually spoke with someone last night how they're having issues swallowing. I got to a point where if I would drink something, it would swallow and then it would just shoot out. The list goes on. And that's where I was at. Now, my daughter, I mentioned earlier, she had PANDAS-like symptoms. And then she became sensitive to everything. She had the colonoscopies and a lot of different procedures like I had. And they said that her body was responding like she was allergic to a lot, whether it was food, her environment, whatever. And so she was super allergic to things. We couldn't do dyes, gluten, dairy. She had to have the most strict diet. She was bedridden. She had POTS-like symptoms, tachycardia. She and I both had a debilitating brain fog that, again, like dementia, except for her, she used to say to me, Mama, I feel like I'm in a weird dream. Everything's weird. And so what I took as just this deep brain fog and confusion. And she had crushing anxiety. She was on an SSRI for that. Depression. Oh, it killed me. Having to deal with suicidal thoughts of, at the time, 11-year-old. Her hair was so matted. She was long, beautiful blonde hair, and we had to chop it here just because her hair was matted from being in bed so much. It was just so much. And we were being treated by a place for Lyme disease, co-infections, viruses, whatnot. And we tried all the different protocols. and that didn't work. And then finally, I just got so bad with all my symptoms. The place that was treating me told me, you need life-saving stem cell or something. And I had actually just before that, so I mentioned I've tried a lot of things. One of the things I had done is SOT, and I know SOT might help some, but for me, SOT, it's this treatment, and it was going to address Borrelia burgdorferi, which is Lyme. But for me, my Borrelia was so high, all it did was make me even more violently sick. I started going into multiple seizures a day. And then at the same time, this place tried to test me for heavy metals. And just the provoking process made me so sick I had to stop that. And that's when they said, you need stem cell or something. Something is really wrong. So I immediately took off to Guadalajara, Mexico, and found a place and started stem cell, NK cells or natural killer cells, exosomes, there are a couple other treatments I did, but didn't get better. And my daughter got stem cells, so did my boys. My boys at the time were tired. My youngest was having his seizures and falling on his head. Sometimes I would find him suffocating in the carpet because when he has these seizures, his body would be paralyzed. It was really scary. My middle child would have choking incidents often, so he had a swallowing issue as well. And so we're talking incidents where we call 911. Like I'm throwing him over my knee, just trying to get whatever thing he just had. This happened at least 2 to 3 times a year. It was a nightmare. And so we headed to Mexico. We did stem cell. It did not, my daughter and I didn't get better. If anything, it made my daughter worse. There's something about, I've read, sometimes stem cell can make PANDAS worse. It did not help. If anything, we just got puffed up, gained a lot of weight, and we were no better. From there, my kids end up going home, and then I went on to Germany. I heard there was this treatment for Lyme disease and co-infections where they lower your blood sugar and then they give you IV antibiotics. So I experienced that route of IV antibiotics. And another thing I didn't mention is I had lost vision in my eye and I started losing vision in the other eye. I started that treatment, slight improvement for a week, only to feel horrifically sick a week later. And the reason why is the way that one thing I'd like to say is aggressive treatment is not the way to go. I did all that. I did all the aggressive treatments, and all it does is wake up the sleeping giant within. And we all have viruses and infections and co-infections and long COVID. I had that too. All the different things that are just sitting there. EBV, that's the monster you don't want to mess with. And that's all it did is it woke it up. They tried to aggressively go after it, and it nearly killed me. I developed heart failure and a whole slew of other issues. What I would tell you is, after doing all these radical treatments, it's like someone reached inside, pulled my insides out, everything out of me, my personality, everything, and then just put my organs back in. I felt empty. I felt like not a human. I felt major PTSD when I came back to the U.S. I felt depression that was so painful. It was just horrific to be in my body every second. And it gave me an empathy for people out there that struggle with that. My hormones were shot. My thyroid was shot. My heart was in failure. All these different things. And at this point, my house was sold just to be able to afford, and we had to go fund me just to be able to afford these different things. And then pretty much at a point of just broke. And I remember asking God, please help. At this point, I'm living in rentals, and it's rental after rental of mold issues and whatnot, and I'm in hotels, and our family doesn't have a place really to call home. And I remember just saying, God, please help. That's all I had. Help. And within seconds on Facebook, I saw Danielle with Deeper Healing, her video with her husband, talking about ozone and her his sick experience. And I had no idea how that was connected with Deeper Healing, but I reached out to Danielle and we talked a long time and got here finally to Deeper Healing. And wow, it's completely different. First of all, it's not like this aggressive approach, it's a gentle approach. But I felt relieved. I've been a lot of places with doctors. I don't trust doctors anymore. They don't they don't believe me. I don't want to hear what you have to say. You haven't helped me. And even the ones that were supposed to be really good in Mexico and Germany failed me, made me sicker. And so call it a chip on my shoulder and running into a lot of people. I knew more than them. I'm not an arrogant person. I'm I'm a pretty humble person, but I'd be like, you're not right. You don't know what you're talking about. And I got here and met Dr. B or Dr. Bauerschmidt, and I just was able to just let go and just relax and be like, oh gosh, finally a doctor out here that knows what they're talking about and actually knows way more than me and can help me. Like, all the stuff was a lot of new stuff, but it made sense. And the most profound thing he said to me was, mold is a major immune system disruptor, allowing opportunistic infections and viruses to just take over in your body. And that clicked. That's how I knew he knew what he was talking about, because all I saw were all these infections and viruses taking over my life. And it made sense. That was the culprit. They ended up, of course, doing testing and whatnot. And my daughter and my whole family, we had exposure to black mold. We had 4 out of 5 of the categories of mold. And so knew for sure that was an issue. He also mentioned, okay, you come to Deeper Healing. Everybody's got their expertise. You go another place, they might focus on Lyme. You go another place, they might focus on viruses or heavy metals. And he said, we do it all here. But I would be remiss if I didn't give some focus to mold, because mold is a big issue. In that environment, you're not able to heal or get better, if anything, get worse. But that didn't stop there. I also learned a lot about EMFs. I learned I was super sensitive to EMFs, like extremely sensitive. That was at least 10 of my symptoms right there. Hot flashes, anxiety, like a sense of dread that comes over you, almost like a sense of oppression. And I have since been hooked up with all kinds of room harmonizers and cell phone harmonizers, but it's been a huge help. But when you come here, it's a well-rounded approach, looking at everything that we're using in our daily lives. And I just took it and applied it. So at this point with Deeper Healing, I decided that we were going to do a 2-week stay and heal. But since money was getting scarce, I wanted to have my daughter go first. If anybody's getting better first, it's going to be my daughter. I didn't mention she had also been, anytime we would go out, she would be in a wheelchair. Her tachycardia was so bad. She was so tired that she would need to be in a wheelchair just to be at her brother's birthday party or anything like that. It was very sad to see your daughter like that. And again, I felt like I was failing her because I was sick too. It was rough. And I talked to Danielle, we scheduled it, and we got here. And Dr. B, he did ART testing on her. And what was really cool when he did the ART testing, I didn't have all her blood work and her past things that we had found. We just jumped into ART that day. It was on my part, I just didn't get him everything yet. They did ART and it literally lined up with the labs that we had done, which was really cool. And one of my motherly instincts, like, I know she has parasites. She tested positive for parasites. So it's a really cool tool to find what it might be the root cause of something, and to just be aware how your body's responding to supplements. All these supplements we're taking actually might be hurting us. We might be sensitive to it. I highly recommend it. I have had all my kids here since then. ART is like the first thing that we do. When I brought my sons, my youngest, we started dealing with PANDAS symptoms for him. And we We knew they all had strep, and we had tried everything we could. We're not living in mold at this point, but when they did ART testing for him, it was really cool because they were able to find that he had an issue in his tonsils, and he had never had strep throat. So I brought my daughter here to Deeper Healing, and Dr. B sat us down. We had done ART, we did all that, got labs done, and he sat her down and they talked about doing the cellular cleanse. You have some symptoms flare or whatnot, and it was 5 days of the cellular cleanse, and so it's like exercise with oxygen therapy and then some lymphatic massage and then into the sauna. And we did that every day, and we did other things. But it was Sunday. So we started Monday, and it was on Sunday. She got out of bed. She started dancing, being silly, and her personality, I saw a glimpse of her personality. And I was so excited because she is a dancer, and she hadn't done that in 2 years. And it just gave me this glimpse of hope. And in that moment, I picked up the phone and I said to my husband, let's order this exercise with oxygen machine, the sauna, everything. This is very encouraging. So then the week continued, her second week, and I just saw nothing but progress. And then got her back home and continued it. And then I had my week and my ART testing, and I had given Dr. B no labs or anything. He found all the things that had been tested, Lyme co-infections. So those were still there after treating in Germany and Mexico. They were not gone. And viruses, everything. I remember him saying about both Charlie and I, whoa, this is a lot. But they don't leave you overwhelmed. They leave you encouraged because it's just this step by step, just peeling an onion of how to get better. And I was really encouraged with my week here. They look at everything, whether you have trauma in the past, which I did, and they do this microcurrent neurofeedback, which I continued back home. That was a game changer for ridding of anxiety. They look at the whole picture when they're here. I went on from our time here, and the next 6 weeks, my daughter and I, we did everything they recommended. We're nebulizing and taking the supplements they gave us. And it wasn't a huge thing of supplements. Like before, I used to take this many supplements and medicines, and it wasn't that many, and they test your body with ART, which is really cool. And so we just went on, and every couple weeks, every month, you just would see this progress. The first thing that lifted for my daughter and I was brain fog, which was such a good feeling to be able to be present in the moment and be able to think. I used to not be able to even talk like this. This would be a nightmare for me to be talking to people or interacting. I couldn't fake, I couldn't put this smile on, and I'm just truly joyful and thankful for just everything here with Deeper Healing. I've told so many people about it. It's been such a huge help. I don't have the bruises all over my body anymore. My fatigue is lessened a ton. I stopped Adderall a long time ago, but way less fatigue. Just so many of the symptoms I mentioned were just lifted. And then I was able to coach soccer and basketball for my boys this past year. My daughter, who was bedridden, was able to go to middle school at a private school that's really difficult, made A's and a couple B's. So we were super proud of her. She was able to start dance. She did 3 dance classes, and then they asked her if she wanted to be in the dance company. It's just been incredible. Literally going from just near death, ashes, utter despair, and just, it was a nightmare, to just life and living and able to do vacations and just things we never even thought of. There's so much that they can do here to help you. Because of deeper healing, we literally went from ashes to living. It has changed our life. We're going on vacation and just enjoying life now. It's awesome. I'd like to say no one is more skeptical than I am of just any new place that you go. I did the 12 plus, 13 plus years seeing doctor after doctor, Mayo Clinic, UAB, Vanderbilt. I've literally traveled the world and been let down time and time again. And I'm telling you, and I tell people all the time, deeper healing is where I finally got my answers and was able to make changes, like life-saving changes. I've been on all the Facebook groups, POTS, PANDAS, chronic fatigue, just so many different groups that are on there. And it's easy to get stuck in, I've got PANDAS, and that's it. And it's this one track. That's what I used to do. Okay, how do we fix PANDAS? There's POTS. And you're told with POTS, there's no way to fix it. There's no cure. IBS, no cure. All these different things, no cure. It's PANDAS. It's POTS. It's just a name. It means nothing. When we literally dug in deep and made the changes and addressed mold and addressed heavy metals and all these different things, those symptoms lift. So keep that in mind when you get fixated on these labels. They mean nothing. That's not your final diagnosis. You're not incurable. You can get better. Through my experience, I've actually referred a lot of people here to deeper healing because I know it works. There were a couple people that said, hey, I didn't get better. And so I couldn't believe it because it worked for me. And so I dug a little deeper and learned that they hadn't moved out of mold. They stopped nebulizing or only did it for a couple weeks, and they didn't put the work in. So you have to put the work in. You have to make the changes. You can't live in mold, but you just put the work in, make the changes. I know for those that are out there that are so sick, like, yeah, I'll put the work in, and that's just what you have to do, and then you'll be so glad that you did. Yay!